but now time is almost finished, and what they've been many years learning, they will have to learn in a few months. Aha, he says, this is in 1851, and therefore she is anticipating that Christ is going to come within 3 months. But then I say, okay, but similar statements are made 3 years later.
Very good. We got just a few more to look at, and then we'll be calling it a close. I do want to take some time to do a Q&A because we did have a couple of questions there. So let's speed through here real quick. I'm tempted to skip a portion. How much is your time there, Pastor Morgan?
You know, whatever you want to do.
Till Jesus comes?
Jesus comes. Yeah,
I knew you were going to say that. Oh boy, let's make just a brief comment on this next portion, 2 hour 5 minute 44-second mark, and then we'll go on.
Is this the in a few months?
No, but I think you did want to comment on the a few months part, did you?
It's well, okay, protecting you. Before you bring up the thing, bring up my screen, and I'll do that real quick. Okay. He made a big deal about the in a few months, which he translated as three months, and he's saying it fits in with his view. And how can you explain that? And my response was, well, if he's right that this statement supports a 7-year theory ending in October 1851, then why was she repeating the same phrase about the in a few months in 1854? And in 1882. And to zoom through this, we go the original statement. Here it is. And it talks about, but now time is almost finished, and what they've been many years learning, they will have to learn in a few months. Aha, he says, this is in 1851, and therefore she is anticipating that Christ is going to come within 3 months. But then I say, okay, but similar statements are made 3 years later, where she says, truths that have been years learning must be learned in a few months by those who now embrace the third angel's message. And the date is 1854. So she's still saying 3 months. And another one from 1854. And here she explains what she's saying. Truths that we have been many years learning, those who now embrace the third angel's message will have to learn in a few months. We had to search and wait the opening of truth and receive a ray of light here and a ray there and labor and beg for God to reveal truth to us. But now the truth is plain. Its rays are brought together. So what she's saying is that the early Adventists got it piecemeal, but now that they've put it all together, they can get it in a few months. And then that's also in 54. And it's still true when it's republished in early writings in 1882, the same statement. So that's my defense, is that if it was specific to that year, 1851, why would she keep saying it? She's not using it to tie into his theory of 7 years, which she disavowed by saying no more time setting, 1850, 1851. And James White said in 1851, sorry, brothers, you want to put it in this year, but the case is not strong. We don't agree with you. We love you, but we don't agree with you. So there's all of the evidence rebuts that idea, and she continues using the same phrase later. So it doesn't really make his case. That's my point.
You're on mute, brother Ed.
That always happens to me. Just to kind of put it in my own terms, because it helps me to understand things when I put it in my own terms. So you tell me if I'm concluding, if I'm understanding correctly, right? So basically, Daly is trying to use the phrase "in a few months" because of the 7-year theory from the Joseph Bates, who says that from October 22nd, 1844, 7 years later, Jesus was going to return, right? Probation would close. Because Ellen White, a few months prior to the termination of those 7 years, uses the phrase "a few months," Steve assumes that Well, there you go. She agreed with Joseph Bates because just in a few months after she said that, probation was going to close. What you're saying is that is a typical phrase that she used in other cases as well, even after the 7-year period ended of Joseph Bates' theory, which shows evidence that in her mind, saying a few months doesn't necessarily apply to the ending of Joseph Bates' 7-year theory where that probation would close, but more of, and you correct me if I'm wrong at this point, it more applies to the fact that Jesus is coming soon. We just got to be ready for it. Is that a good summary?
Yeah, I think you summarized it well.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Amen.
I just wanted to make sure that's, I understood correctly, and I wanted the audience to have that as well. Okay.
And
it makes sense in my mind. Go ahead.
I just wanted to make this absolutely clear before we move on, because I think Keani's saying, I don't know why she said a few months, but I think, basically, early SDA said it. She was emphasizing the shortness of time. And I think what you had said, Pastor Morgan, was that, they had got rays of lights over a long period of time. And as time's getting closer to the end, those things that they took long time to explain or gather, the people are going to have to learn in a few months. Did I get it right? Or
yeah, and it doesn't take a long time. How long does it take to go through a study on our view of biblical teachings?
But that makes sense.
It can go in a few months.
But that makes sense what you're saying there, because the doctrines were developing, and it took time as they developed, while they were studying it. But once they had the doctrines formulated already, it didn't have to take years to learn it, but just a few months. And I wanted to re-emphasize that portion that Jason brought up, that you had brought up, Morgan, during the last stream, that when she speaks about a few months, she's not saying that in a few months Jesus is going to come, but rather she's saying that they need to learn within the time span of a few months, or short time, basically, what they took years to learn, because it took time for them as time went by to develop those doctrines, such as the sanctuary message, and especially that one, things of that nature. So that's what she's talking about. Yeah.
But I think it even makes sense even as the day approaches. The Bible says we are a day closer than when we first believed, or something of that sort. So as things are wrapping up, people that are just hearing these messages, they themselves, as time is getting closer to the second coming, will have to learn things rather quickly. Some things that we've taken years to learn, they're going to have to learn even in the last days. So even from that point of view, I think it's an absolute true statement, no matter what angle you're looking at it from. So.
Yeah, and it doesn't support the 7-year theory. That's the point.
Oh yeah, that's clear, because a person wouldn't say that decades after, if they really believe that 7-year theory, they wouldn't use the same statement.
Right.
So she was referring to something else.
Okay.
Isn't it true also, last point, that even the Bible authors, they believed not necessarily that Jesus would come during their time, but that, you needed to be prepared at any moment that he might come, right?
I think they did think it was in their time. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that reminds me of Paul's statement where he says, we shall be gathered together with him in the air. And he includes himself in that, right?
We which are alive.
We which are alive, yeah.
Yeah. And there are a number of other statements. I think we were kind of pulling some of those together, but indications that they thought it was in their time. Yeah. Okay, we ready for something else?
Yeah.